Welcome to the deep dive. Get ready, because we're diving deep into a stack of source material today. It's all about the latest release of the Appian platform, version 25.2.
That's right. We've really rolled up our sleeves, gone through the highlights Appian put out, trying to pull out the must-know details for you.
Yeah, our goal is pretty simple. Cut through maybe some of the marketing speak, understand the real impactful advancements, and figure out what these updates actually mean, whether you're, building the apps or using them day to day.
Exactly. We'll touch on some really exciting stuff in AI, especially around documents. We'll look at brand new ways to build interfaces, explore performance boosts across a platform, see how data handling is changing, check out user experience tweaks, and cover some key updates for admins too.
Okay, let's unpack this, and maybe let's start with something I know is a real headache for a lot of folks. Dealing with, messy, complicated documents and business processes. The source talks about a centralized AI document center. How is this changing things for intelligent document processing?
Well, what's really interesting here, instead of having scattered tools, they've actually built a dedicated application just for this. It's designed as like a single place where you can build, test, and deploy the models that classify your documents and pull information out, all using Appian's AI skill library.
Ah, okay. So the core idea is unification, focus.
Exactly. And by having this dedicated space, the source really emphasizes that it simplifies tackling those tough documents.
Yeah.
The ones with weird layouts, scanned images, different formatting. The payoff is supposed to be much higher accuracy.
Higher accuracy is always good, but does the source give us, like, a concrete example? What's the impact?
It does, yeah, and it's pretty compelling. They shared a story about a large insurance company that used this, improve their underwriting accuracy, saw it jump from about 65% up to 95%.
Yeah, 65 to 95, that's a huge leap.
It really is.
Did the source mention the business outcome from that?
Absolutely. That accuracy boost led to a reported $400,000 in monthly revenue growth for that company. So a very clear line from the tech capability to, well, significant business value.
That's serious money. And it sounds like they've tried to make the building part easy, too.
Yes. The source describes it as an intuitive workflow. You define your document types, the fields you need to extract. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Appian AI Copilot helps out. It automatically suggests extraction fields based on the document type.
Oh, okay. Like if I say it's a resume, it might suggest name, address, work history, that kind of thing.
Precisely. Gives you a smart starting point.
Yeah.
Then you can tweak it, of course. And the center includes testing capabilities right there in the app. Shows you accuracy metrics, field by field, and overall before you actually deploy the model.
Okay, that does sound much more streamlined for development. Right. Shifting gears a bit, the sources mention a new category called advanced plugins. How do these fit in?
Yeah, this is interesting. It's about how customers can extend Appian's core functions. These advanced plugins are a new class. They're actually developed and maintained by Appian itself.
Yeah.
But you install them separately, from the admin console or My Appian.
Okay, so Appian built extensions, but modular.
Right. And the source highlights two to start with. First one is GridPlus.
GridPlus, what's the main idea there?
GridPlus basically brings a level of data manipulation you'd normally see in, like desktop software, right into your Appian interfaces. It's a really feature-rich grid for viewing and editing record data. The key thing is the customization and user controls. Things like easy column tweaking, sorting, filtering, selecting multiple cells, and crucially, inline creation and deletion right there in the grid.
Ah, so less clicking into forms and back out again for data entry.
Exactly. It should really boost efficiency if you're reviewing or editing lots of data at once. And the source mentions it has built-in security controls, internationalization support too, and drag-and-drop columns.
Nice. Okay, and the second one mentioned is the Microsoft Document Editor. Sounds straightforward, but what's the real benefit?
The main benefit, getting rid of that clunky download, edit, re-upload cycle. This plugin lets you view and edit Word, Excel, and PowerPoint docs stored in Appian Knowledge Centers directly within an Appian interface.
Right, a seamless experience for standard Office docs.
Precisely. And a big win for collaboration, Source points this out. It supports concurrent multi-user editing.
Oh, really? Multiple people at once?
Yeah, working on the same document stored in Appian simultaneously.
That's actually a pretty significant improvement for teams working on documents tied to a process. Speaking of the experience, the source mentions redesigned headers and interface objects. Is this mostly just a visual polish?
It's partly visual, yeah. Aiming for a more modern look, they've updated the headers in Appian Designer and the admin console with this sleek new gradient design.
Okay. And the interface object itself when you're building?
That gets a makeover too. Same gradient look, updated icons. The layout's also been streamlined a bit, trying to make it easier to see the object's capabilities and navigate while you build.
Got it. Okay, we talked about AI helping process builders with documents. Let's switch to how AI is helping business users directly. The source introduces Appian AI Copilot for business users. What's this about?
Well, what's really interesting here is the introduction of AI-powered Smart Search, specifically for record types. It's a preview feature right now, they note.
Smart Search. How's that different from just, a standard search bar?
It goes beyond simple keyword matching. It uses AI to do what's called semantic search. Basically, it tries to understand the intent and meaning behind what you type. Then it surfaces related cases and info across your data fabric, including documents attached to those records.
Okay, wait. So if I search for something like power outage, it might also find records where people wrote electricity failure, or maybe even lights are out.
Exactly. It connects those related concepts automatically. Makes it much faster for a business user to find all the relevant info tied to, say, a case or a customer, even if the exact words weren't used. The source also mentions it works well when you combine it with standard filters, too.
That sounds really useful. Okay, moving back to the automation layer. The sources talk about AI agents and AI skills. How are these getting more powerful?
Well, they've added support for more advanced document processing tasks and, importantly, built-in high availability and auto-scaling for these AI components.
And there's a specific new skill, advanced IDP tools. What's that tackle?
Yes, this one's designed for those really tricky documents. Think multi-page applications, maybe forms with complex nested tables inside. It provides a richer, more structured output than standard extraction. It can give you details like currency formats, where labels are located, even the number of rows in a table.
So you can automate pulling data from documents that were maybe just too complex before?
Precisely. Getting more granular, usable data out of them. And you can apparently combine this with generative AI skills, using the prompt builder, for even more sophisticated stuff.
You mentioned high availability, HA, and auto-scaling. How do those help with these AI skills?
Right, so for Appian Cloud users, HHA is now available for the generative AI skills, the AI Copilot features for both business users and developers, and that new advanced IDP tool skill. This means automatic redundancy, automatic scaling to handle demand spikes, and protection against potential failures.
So they're becoming more robust, more reliable for critical processes.
Correct. And the auto-scaling part for generative AI skills means you can include them in your standard auto-scale processes. They'll scale up or down based on demand automatically, no extra setup needed from you.
Ah, that's handy. And there's a small detail here for developers. Token information output.
Yeah, the generative AI skills now tell you how many tokens were used for both the input prompt and the generated output. This is actually really helpful for understanding and optimizing the cost of using these AI automations.
Okay, good to know. Let's talk about more traditional automation, RPA, robotic process automation. What's new there?
The source highlights some pretty significant optimizations to the robotic tasks themselves. They're making them much lighter, faster, reporting up to a 70% reduction in size.
70%? How does that translate in practice for developers or admins?
Well, it means faster loading times when you're monitoring or debugging the robots. Also reduced memory usage. So teams can work more concurrently on robotic processes without needing extra infrastructure. It should also improve stability, even if you have complex, nested subtasks.
And for the actual running of the robots?
Yeah, they report enhanced performance during execution. More stable debugging and running overall, smoother, more responsive. Basically improved efficiency at scale, even with multiple users or complex bots running together.
Faster, lighter, more stable RPA.
Got it. Shifting to how the platform itself handles auto-scale features.
Right, building on what we just said about AI skills and auto-scale processes, they've added timer events within those processes now. Timer events in auto-scaled processes. What does that let you do?
It lets you schedule specific steps or nodes to run or retry at a certain time within an auto-scale process. This is really useful if you're interacting with external services that might have delays or need a retry mechanism. Adds flexibility, reduces manual workarounds.
That sounds neat. And for admins managing potentially lots of these auto-scale processes, is there more control?
Yes, this is a big win for admins, I think. On the Autoscale Process Activity page, there's now a direct option to cancel active processes. You can use filters to select them and cancel with a single click. No more hunting around or running scripts for that.
Oh, that definitely makes managing large volumes much more efficient.
Absolutely. And the enhanced monitoring on that same page gives more granular filters for status, error states, plus single-click navigation between parent to child processes. Makes troubleshooting quicker.
Okay, next up, Process HQ. This is the part focused on combining data fabric, process mining, AI, all for business insights and optimization.
Exactly. They've rolled out a range of general speed and build enhancements here. Things like faster field discovery when you're building reports, interactive charts where you can click to filter data, and direct drill downs from conformance KPIs.
And a simple user preference, light mode.
Yep. You can now choose light mode or the existing dark mode in your user settings for Process HQ. Simple, but nice to have the option.
You mentioned enhanced field discovery. What does that help with?
It's mainly for the builder experience. When you're looking for specific fields to add to reports or filters in Process HQ, you can now just search for them by name. Quicker finding.
And the interactive charts.
Yeah, this is pretty cool for exploring data. If you see a chart in your Data Fabric Insights, you can click on a section of it, like a bar or pie slice, and it instantly filters the grid data below to match just that selection.
Ah, okay. Makes drilling into specifics much faster. And you can tune views and KPIs more precisely now with filter flexibility.
Correct. You can include or exclude process cases from your analysis based on specific criteria, like only show cases where a certain activity happened, or cases that took longer than a specific duration. More control.
The source also talks about enhanced exploration, showing more details in views and KPIs.
Yes. When you're looking at the process diagram, if you click on an activity or a sequence of activities, it now shows visualizations highlighting how much that part contributes to overall process inefficiency. And KPIs now show more type-specific metrics. Like for a count KPI, it might show the number of cases broken down by automation type.
And the ability to drill down on conformance.
Yeah, this is really useful for process improvement. You know, the conformance KPI shows how many processes deviate from the ideal path. Now you can click right on that KPI to drill down and see only the non-conforming activities or sequences. Then you can analyze the characteristics of the cases that went down those wrong paths.
Helps you find the root cause faster. And they've extended alerting.
Yes. Previously, you could get email alerts if duration KPIs went over a threshold. Now you can also set alerting on count KPIs, so you can get notified if, say, the number of cases processed hits a certain high or low point you define.
Okay, let's switch gears to what the source calls some of our biggest data fabric features yet. Updates to the data fabric. This sounds important.
It really is a major focus in this release, yeah. The headline items are bringing documents into the data fabric, enabling scheduled incremental syncs, and upping the sync limit to 20 million rows.
Okay, let's break that down. Bringing documents into the data fabric. Using record types for documents. What does that really enable?
This is a pretty fundamental shift. Instead of documents living in separate folders kind of alongside your core business data, you can now model them using record types. It means documents effectively become first-class citizens within your data fabric, just like customers or cases. Appian's codeless data modeling can even auto-generate a document record type for you and set up relationships, like linking documents to the specific case or customer they belong to.
And does that help with things like security, managing access?
Absolutely. Because they're modeled with record types and relationships, you can apply standard record-level security. So, for example, a user would only see the documents related to a case if they have permission to see that actual case record. Much more granular control. Plus, once documents are in the data fabric, you can use AI features on them, like that smart search we talked about, or the document extraction AI skill.
And the source mentions an out-of-the-box document record type.
Yeah, it comes pre-configured with common properties, name, size, type, date, and it helps automatically set up relationships to other data you define. A good starting point.
And how does this whole approach streamline workflows compared to, the old way with folders?
It simplifies things quite a bit. You don't need steps in your process to create folders, manage folder permissions, figure out where to put the document. It means fewer objects to manage overall, and potentially simpler process models because the data relationships handle a lot of the context.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one of the things you mentioned that sounds really impactful, incremental syncs.
Yes, this is a potential game changer for keeping your data fabric current, especially for those service-backed record types connected to external systems. You can now schedule syncs to run much more frequently, maybe every few hours or even every few minutes. But here's the key. It only captures the new or changed data since the last sync ran.
Ah, so much faster data updates, but without the huge resource hit of doing a full resync every time.
Precisely. It keeps your data fabric much more current, which is critical for real-time insights and applications built on that data. And related to scale, they've also increased the overall sync limit to 20 million rows for those service-backed record types.
20 million rows. That allows for bringing in some seriously large external data sets. What about making the building process with Data Fabric more efficient?
Right. That's where reusable record fields come in. This is a big one for developers. You can now define validations and even user interface configurations directly on the record field itself.
Wait, so you define how, say, an email field should be validated or how a date field should look in a form once on the record type.
Exactly. Define it once on the field definition. Then, anywhere you use that field in an interface or process, it automatically inherits that validation or UI configuration. The principle is set once, use anywhere. It should drastically speed up design, ensure consistency, and make maintenance way easier because you only update the logic in one central place.
That sounds incredibly useful. And the source mentions new functions to help with those reusable validations.
Yeah, a few helper functions were added, things like .is between dot starts with a dot ends with oi.as in text, plus a function called a.apply validations, which makes it easy to actually trigger those field-level validations in your interface logic.
Makes sense. And for setting up the record types initially, you can quickly connect to data sources now.
Yeah, it's a small usability thing. You can basically curate a shortcut list of your most commonly used connected systems. So when you create a new record type, those common sources are right there, saving a few clicks.
Okay. And when Appian suggests relationships between record types automatically based on the data, you have more control.
Correct. Previously, it was kind of all or nothing with the suggestions. Now you can pick and choose suggested relationships individually. And they've also simplified the automatically generated names for those relationships to make them clearer.
Good. And the actions that get generated automatically from record types like create case or update customer, those are getting a modernized layout.
Yes. The interfaces generated for those standard record actions will now automatically use updated layouts. They'll incorporate the new form layout, header templates, more flexible dialog sizes, giving them a modern look right out of the box. They've also improved the smart data generation within those forms. Like it'll automatically add a file upload component if you have a document field, or use the new wizard layout if you have complex one-to-many relationships.
You mentioned more flexible dialog sizes there.
Yeah, more control for the builder. You can now set the height and width of those record action dialogues independently. The default width is also a bit narrower now for a more contemporary feel.
And accessing the interface for an action is easier.
Yep, just a small shortcut. There's now a direct link to the start form interface for each record action, visible right from the record type object itself. Saves navigating.
Okay, and one last thing for Data Fabric. Support for OAuth 2.0 credentials in data sources?
Yes, this adds a widely used modern authentication standard. You can now use OAuth 2.0 for connecting to SQL Server, Oracle, and custom data sources, giving you more secure connection options.
All right, let's move on to the user-facing experiences. Sites and portals, what's new for users or builders there?
A useful one for developers. There's a new troubleshooting tab directly within the site object itself. It gives you error details right there, without needing to dig through system logs first.
Oh, that's a nice time saver during development or debugging.
Definitely. And for organizations using multiple portals, there's more flexibility with branding. You can now configure up to 10 custom domains, and these can be shared across your various portals. So you can maintain consistent branding, like maybe registration.yourcompany.com and support.yourcompany.com, even if they're separate portals.
Ah, okay. Better branding consistency across different experiences. And a simple, but maybe helpful usability tweak, longer page names.
Yeah, exactly that. You can now use more characters in the names of your site and portal pages. Allows for clearer, more descriptive labels in the navigation.
Makes sense. Okay, back to building those user interfaces. What are the key improvements for designers in this release? What stands out?
There are quite a few important ones here. We already touched on using those reusable record field UIs, which is huge. Beyond that, there are major improvements to forms, a new branding preview capability right in the designer, and continued performance work.
Okay, let's dig into the form improvements. A wizard layout sounds really interesting. How does that work?
It's designed to make building complex, multi-page forms much easier. You can configure a standard form layout to display as a step-by-step wizard. It adds milestones, title bars, And Appian handles the underlying logic for navigating between the steps automatically. You just define the steps.
Oh, wow. So it takes a lot of that manual design work and logic out of building guided flows.
Exactly. Should simplify things significantly. And related to that, configurable title bars. Yes, you get templates now for adding formatted text, colors, icons, or even images to that title bar area on your forms or wizards. You can even use standard card or billboard layouts if you want highly custom designs there. And there's even an AI-powered suggestion button to help you pick icons.
Huh. AI suggesting icons. Okay. And the option for fix buttons.
Yeah, just a layout option. You can choose to fix the main action buttons like Submit or Next at the bottom of the form or wizard layout. That way, they stay visible, even if the user scrolls to a long form section.
Handy. The source also mentions updated interface templates, just refreshing the starting points.
Yeah, basically refreshing the out-of-the-box templates. You can start with forms, pages, examples. They reflect the latest best practices and incorporate some of these new features, like the updated request form example.
Got it. Any updates to the file upload component itself?
A couple of small usability things. You can now copy and paste files directly into the component field. And they've apparently refined the behavior when a user tries to upload a file type that you've blocked in the configuration. Oh, and a minor but sometimes needed formatting option. The styled text editor now supports superscript and subscript.
Okay. And you can control the position of radio buttons and checkboxes relative to their labels.
Yes, a new parameter called choice position lets you align them to the left or the right of the label text. Just offers a bit more layout flexibility.
Right. You mentioned it earlier, but let's just reiterate the impact of reusable record field UIs in interfaces, because that sounds really significant.
It really is a huge efficiency gain for builders. Think about it. Instead of manually configuring how every instance of, say, a status field should look in read-only mode, or how an amount field should behave in an input mode, on every single interface, you define it once, centrally, on the record field definition itself. Then you just reference that field in your interface, and it automatically brings in the pre-configured read-only view or input component.
So massive consistency boost and saves tons of repetitive configuration.
Absolutely. You can even easily reference other field properties like its configured display name or description directly in the interface too, reducing duplication even further.
And when you're actually building these interfaces, you can now see how the branding will look.
Yes, the branding preview feature. Right inside the Interface Object Designer, you can instantly see how your interface will look with the site or portal branding applied. Things like the button shapes, the accent color, any custom typeface you've set up in the admin console. It all shows up in the preview without you having to leave the object or deploy anything.
Oh, that must speed up iterating on the look and feel significantly. No more guessing or constant saving and testing.
Exactly. And are there general performance improvements for working in the Interface Designer itself? Yes. The source notes continued work here. Things like drag and drop actions, configuring component parameters, and seeing the live preview updates should all feel speedier.
Good to hear. A couple of quick visual notes. New stamp shapes.
Yeah, the stamp component, which is often used for status indicators, now has options for round, square, or square with rounded corners. More visual choice.
And updated milestones.
The milestone component, used in those wizard layouts or other progress indicators, can now display longer step names before truncating. Just a bit more space for clarity.
Okay, great. What about users who access Appian on their phones or tablets? What's new for Appian Mobile?
The key improvement for the end-user experience is persistent end-user experiences. Basically, if the phone's operating system decides to close the Appian app in the background to save resources, when the user reopens it, they'll be returned automatically to the last site page they were on, or the offline-enabled task they were working on.
Ah, so it prevents those frustrating moments where the app restarts and you lose your place.
Exactly. Much smoother continuation. And bringing feature parity between platforms. Yes, a couple of things. Print to PDF is now available on Android devices. Previously, that was iOS only. And audio recording during video capture is now available on Android as well. Again, matching iOS capability.
Okay. And specifically for iPad users running the latest operating system.
Yeah, there are some iOS 18 navigation improvements for iPad. On iPadOS 18, site pages will apparently display using a floating tab bar in the header area, making better use of the larger screen real estate compared to the standard phone layout. Interesting layout tweak for tablets. Okay, finally, let's wrap up with updates for the administrators, the folks keeping the platform running smoothly. What's new under administration?
A notable one, especially for larger enterprises, is support for multiple OpenID Connect OIDC providers. OIDC is that standard way to connect to identity providers like Okta, Azure AD, Google for single sign-on. This update means you can now configure and use more than one of these OIDC providers within a single Appian instance. Maybe different providers for different user groups.
Right, that offers more flexibility for complex enterprise identity setups, and a big usability improvement for managing processes. Unarchived processes in Process Activity View.
Yes, this is a really nice quality of life improvement. You know how processes get archived after a while? Previously, if you needed to unarchive one, an admin usually had to run a script on the server's file system. Now you can do it directly through the admin console UI. Much simpler. The source gives specific details on how it works for different Appian Cloud versions and self-managed setups. That definitely sounds easier. For automating admin tasks, can permissions for the enhanced data pipeline user be managed programmatically now?
Yes, that's right. Targeting DevOps use cases, there are two new REST API endpoints. These let you manage ADP read access control programmatically, so you can automate granting or revoking the database user's read privileges for specific tables or schemas as part of your deployment scripts.
Okay, useful for automation. And one last technical detail for self-managed environments, a change to the graceful shutdown period.
Yes, for Appian running on Kubernetes or just Linux self-managed, the default period the system waits for processes to finish during a shutdown has been increased significantly. It went from 60 seconds up to 65 minutes. The source also notes that for Kubernetes deployments, this period is customizable if needed. It gives long-running processes much more time to complete cleanly.
Wow, okay. That was definitely a deep dive. We covered a huge amount there. Everything from transforming document processing with that AI center and bringing documents right into the data fabric,
Yeah.
and to building more dynamic UIs with wizards and reusable fields, big enhancements in platform performance and scalability with things like incremental syncs and auto-scaling improvements. Plus better user experiences on mobile and portals, and some really powerful new tools and conveniences for administrators.
Yeah, the recurring themes really seem to be about making the platform smarter, more intelligent, more efficient to build applications on, definitely more scalable, and just more user-friendly all around. It feels like updates that benefit both the developers building the solutions and the business users who rely on them every day.
And just a reminder, this deep dive was our focused look, pulling out the key takeaways and examples directly from that source material you provided on Appian 25.2.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider based on all this. As Appian keeps integrating data, process, AI, and user interfaces more tightly into this unified platform, what new kinds of highly intelligent, highly automated workflows become genuinely possible for your organization now? Maybe things you couldn't even really imagine automating effectively before.
Yeah, think about how some of these specific advancements, like having documents treated as data, the advanced IDP tools for complex extraction, or that semantic smart search for business users, how could those directly impact your own projects, your industry, or just the way you work with business information day to day? If you do have access to the full source material from Appian, exploring it further based on what caught your interest here is definitely worthwhile.